All right, here we go. Video number 2. As you can see, what we're going to be focusing on is the assignment and the rubric, as well as the overview of the components of the assignment, what Castle Learning looks like for those of you who received the email. If you did not receive the email yet, then you will soon. And then the rubric for the assignment. The objective here is to provide you guys with some of the basics of this assignment, including what you're going to do for the assignment, how you can do it, whether it be pen or paper, or like I said, through Castle Learning, or using Google if you've received that, and then how specifically you're going to be scored. So let's get into it. First thing we want to do is we want to look at the assignment sheet that I provided for you guys. The assignment sheet, as you see, lists 2 assignments. I'm not going to read this to you because you should have a copy of it. If you do not have a copy of it, like I said, please email me, let me know. My email will be on the bottom. I'll leave it there for a couple seconds for you to write it down if you need to. But what we really want to focus on here is the idea of you writing an argumentative essay. Now that we've finished Romeo and Juliet, we want to make sure that we understand that we have the opportunity to prove our knowledge by arguing one of several topics through an argumentative essay. We're going to talk about what that means in a second, but the topics are the teen brain. We read an article recently about what people argue about teenagers and their brains. So you can argue one side of that and what you think about teenagers and their brain versus the other side. You can argue that Romeo and Juliet is the best love story, or it's not the best love story. You can argue about what we're currently in right now, COVID-19 versus the plague, whether the coronavirus, as it's called, is the worst virus of all time versus the plague, or you might argue that the plague was more of a danger to society when it existed during the Renaissance. So it's kind of an argument one side or the other. Or finally, you could pick a choice, something relating to Romeo and Juliet as it pertains to an argument, and then back it up based off of what we're going to be talking about in this assignment. This is important, right? There are 5 components to this assignment, and I want to make sure that we understand what they are. I have explained this, but I want to make sure I explain this again. The graphic organizer that's laid out in the assignment is worth 10 points. It's in the packet. We'll take a look at it in the next video, as well as the outline. These are 2 organizing components for your essay. They are very important, and they have to be completed. As it says, they will be graded individually, and you can complete them on the paper, or you can do them on a separate sheet of paper as well. The rough draft is 20 points. That's something that you have to construct, revise for 10 points. I'll keep a record of your revisions when you bring it back to me afterwards. And then finally, the final draft is another thing that should be worth 50 points. You can do the math on there and find out that this is a total of 100 points. You can note in the assignment sheet that I reference the video that I'm actually talking on right now. So if we look at this, you can see if you have any issues, you can go to this following video. I'll click on the link because it's active, and it should put you on the YouTube channel where video number 1 is, right there. And we have 1 view. That was probably me. Video 2 will be up here. Videos number 1 through 13 will be up here. And then if there's a reason for there to be any other videos, email me, let me know if there's any questions that you have. If it seems like 1 or 2 people have a question about a specific video or a specific concern, I will make a video for it. Look at that in a second. Going back, we see that there's also a choice read assignment. That's the last page of the packet. That's a daily learning log where every day you do 30 minutes. It doesn't necessarily have to be every specific day. You could do 1 hour one day and then take the next day off. You could do 2 hours of reading like all in a row and then take 3 days off after that. So the whole idea is that you just want to be reading something. It says books, it says magazines, online articles, all of those things count. It doesn't just have to be text, right, as we say. And I also want to provide for people, as it says here, a bonus. I've talked about this, but I want to make sure that I'm explicit with this as well. We mentioned this in class several times, that there was, in the past, an opportunity I've had for previous classes to rewrite a scene for Romeo and Juliet. You could pick a scene like the opening fight scene. You could pick the balcony scene. You could pick any scene that's interesting to you, the death scene at the end. You could pick, Mercutio and Tybalt's fight scene with Romeo breaking it up. Pick that scene and rewrite it with a choice of setting, with a choice of language, with a choice of characters. You might say that you want to pick football players versus, drama kids, and that's your opening fight scene. Totally up to you. 1 to 2 pages. Pick it, and normally we would have you guys act it out, but we won't. We don't want people to gather. I would say you could do it as a Google Hangout, but same thing. I don't want people to be forced to get together. It's just the rewritten scene. Here is my email. I'll leave it here for a couple seconds. I'll move the cursor out of the way. Any questions at any point, any concerns, I will be answering my email beyond 3 o'clock. I'm getting students that are emailing me at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. If you have concerns, questions about any of this stuff, please reach out at any point and I'll try to answer them. If you do not have the ability to print any of these documents because you get it on the Google Doc through talking points, if you got that version and you're like, Mr. Smith, I can't print this. Okay, then just look at it on your phone, look at it in a way that's accessible to you, and just handwrite the documents. Handwriting your rough draft, handwriting the outline, handwriting the graphic organizer will still get you full credit. I don't want somebody to say, Mr. Smith, I couldn't do this because I don't have a printer. Okay, that's fine. Doing it in any way is still going to get it to count. All right, so there's our assignment. Now, I want to go back to what I had mentioned before, which is the overview. Our overview here is in the packet, right? So now we're going to be following through the packet, but I do skip around a little bit. So if you're concerned with where we are, you might need to have your packet with you and follow along with me to see where specifically we are. So the argumentative essay, as we see here, is a specific investigative writing piece where you're going to collect information, generate and evaluate evidence, which we'll talk about. Like I said, I originally said that we were going to be doing it in video number 2, and that's this video about research. We actually moved it. I'll mention that now. We're doing it in video number 8. It makes more sense to do when we're talking about writing our rough draft. So don't expect anything about research here. It is in your packet, but it's going to be around video number 8. So back to that. We want to establish and generate content, which we then use to show our position on a topic in a concise manner. What we don't want to do is we don't want to, which I'll get into in a second, be persuasive. We want to be argumentative, and we'll look at what that means. And we see this in the halls of Nottingham, like I said, all the time. Every day, people will make an argument, and then they'll back it up with what they think is some form of evidence. And then the other person might say, well, I really think this, right? And here we see it with the example of like a movie, right? Bob says, this is a lame movie. And Susie says, why? Well, he says, because the special effects were bad and the monsters were obviously fake. And she's going to say, well, I thought the movie was actually pretty good because the acting was believable. And we'll look at that in a second. That's called a counterclaim. And then he refutes that counterclaim. And this is what's called his rebuttal. And if we'll get into the high level, this is called a logical fallacy, but we don't have to worry about that now. But the idea of the refutation is to say why the counterclaim is wrong. That's what we need to do in this essay. What you need to do in your essay is you need to come up with a claim, an opinion about whatever it is you're arguing. So if we go back to the original document and you say, all right, I'm going to talk about how Romeo and Juliet is not the best love story of all time. Okay, what's one reason why? And then what's evidence that supports it? What's another reason why? And what's more evidence that supports that? What's a counterclaim that some people are going to say? Because some people are going to say that it is the best love story of all time. And then how are you going to say that they're wrong? If you do all those things, then you have a complete argumentative essay when you add an intro and a conclusion. And that's it. But we don't want to be persuasive. What is the difference? Well, when you persuade, you are using emotion. And we'll look at this in a second. Persuasion is the act of being persuaded to do something. I think about how my mom might try to persuade me to take out the trash because she said she made me a delicious dinner and said, you know what, you just ate a tremendous meal that I made you. So it's just in your best interest to really take out that trash. She's going to try to like pull at my heartstrings and make me feel sad. You know, I ate her food and she takes care of me. She's not providing facts or evidence or support. She's just, trying to make me feel sad and then I go out and take care of it, right? Versus, like we see here, argumentation of logical reasonings, with examples and evidence and research. So we're not doing persuasion. We're not doing emotion. People do that all the time, like I said, in the way that they try to argue something in the hallway, but we want to focus on more argumentation. And this is what people may do. Again, please take a second on this slide and read that side, that they make a claim or a thesis, which we'll get into in a couple days. They do not take into account that opposing idea, and this part is really the big one. I'll see if I can get up my little I don't know, I can't get it, but the little highlighter. It's not emotion based. We don't want your essay to be emotion based. We want to be logic based, off of fact, and we really want to make sure that you take into account the counterclaim, the opposing side. So there's going to be a whole paragraph. I oftentimes, when we get into organization, where does it go? We oftentimes talk about it going towards the end. Some of your high school, sophomore, junior year will say put it towards the beginning. We'll get into that when we talk about organization, but I like it towards the end. So ultimately, when we think about the elements, we're going to look at, like I said before, up here, we said that we want to, oh, sorry, not there, up here. We said that we're going to talk about what you're required to do. Well, you're required to do a few different things. You're required to have an argument, right? In an argument of essay, you need an argument. And we do that through the construction of our thesis. That's our main claim. An argument states the claim and supports it with reasons and evidence. So I go always back to the simplest one that I can think of is Coke is better than Pepsi. And I make the argument that Coke is better than Pepsi for many reasons. One reason is because it tastes better. Another reason is because it sells better. Those are reasons that support my main claim or my thesis. And then, so if I'm arguing that side, then I'm a proponent, right? You could probably guess what the opposite side would be, the opponent, right? When we have those things, we have the claim, the main claim being the thesis. We have reasons that support it with evidence. We also have to have what we call the counter argument, the counterclaim. You can't just say that, I mean, you can, but it's not going to be very good, that your side is the right side. You have to take into account the opposition, the opponent, because it will strengthen your argument if you already know where the opposing side is going to go and you explain why they are wrong. That's what you do in the counter argument, right? So you're going to need one of those as well. Finally, you refute that, right? The refutation is the act of disproving that other person's argument. The actual physical thing in your writing is called the rebuttal. So you see some people write rebuttal, you see some people write refutation. They're kind of the same thing. The difference being that one is the physical act, and then the other is the thing in the paper. So one is what you're doing, one is the thing in the paper. So it's basically like a noun versus a verb. Pausing for a second. What I want to do is make sure that we understand that those are the parts, right? We have to have the intro, and in the intro we have our thesis. Then we go into our body paragraphs. The body paragraphs are basically our reasons with evidence, and that's our argument. Two of those. Then we have our counter argument, which says the opponents and why they think what they think and why they're wrong, which is the refutation. And then the conclusion, okay? Intro with a thesis, body paragraph 1 with a reason, body paragraph 2, another reason, counter argument with the act of refutation called rebuttal, and then the conclusion where you restate the thesis. So that's why it's a 5-paragraph essay. So those are the parts, right? And that's why all of your organizing documents, your outline, your thesis, your graphic organizer are set up that way. Now, the one thing I did mention is I want to talk about Castle Learning, because we said you could do this through the packet, you could do this on paper, but I wanted to provide an online option for people that want to do it online. So if you want to set it up where you, on your phone or on your computer, access it, then Castle Learning is an option. So I tried to email it to people. I just learned how to do it a couple days ago. I don't know what the view looks like on your side, but I'll show you what it looks like on my side. You can kind of email me, and like I said, if you have any concerns or questions about that, then we can talk about it. I can try to walk you through as best I can, but I'll show you what I have set up and how it works, and hopefully it looks exactly like or similar to what we have here on this assignment. So this is my Castle Learning page right here. And you can see within the Castle Learning page on my side, I have the assignment overview right here. And I don't know how it displays. It says display text for you guys, so I'm assuming it shows the same thing. When we look at that, what you should see is up here you see again this sheet, same link, right? You have the argument notes, which are, again, if we look at those, what we just looked at in order, right? Then you have the research notes, which we'll get into in a couple days, how to research. 5 ways to make your research better. You have the graphic organizer, which, like I said, if you cannot complete it on here. There's no document for it. There's no structure for it. So what you would do is just use what this fills in, write the boxes on your own sheet of paper, and then keep it and then submit it later on. Same thing with the outline template, because we just saw that was 10 points. Organizer and outline are both 10 points. So you can see that there's a structure for this as well. You would just, if you can print it, awesome. But if not, just handwrite it. And then you can see right here, again, same thing, lesson channel. You click on the lesson channel. Should be the URL for the YouTube page, which again brings us to right where we were. And then on the bottom, you can see the question that we went over, all those links, as well as the assignment, the 5-paragraph essay, a sample answer with some kind of clarifying language. I put number of lines 100. If it's not enough and you need to handwrite elsewhere, then let me know. Or you want to put in an email, again, let me know. I put maximum number of points, 25. It's going to be 100 because we'll look at that in a second on the rubric. And you can actually listen to the assignment here. If you press the play button, it will play it for you, which I thought was a pretty cool thing. So I just want to kind of walk through that in case people wanted to know what this was. I looked at doing it on Canvas. I just thought this was something else because I know a lot of people are using Canvas for other things. So I wanted to give you another option. Not required again. You can do the entire thing through the packet that I provided for you. So last thing is we saw that on here, we were going to go through the rubric. So the rubric right here, and I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see it a little bit better, again, says that there's, please disregard the number of points, because right now it goes up to 3 in the categories. It's actually going to go up to 20 because there's 5 categories, 20 points apiece, totaling 100, right? So introduction and conclusion, which we're going to go over, like I said, having a well-developed introduction, talking about the claim, a conclusion that restates the claim as well is going to put you at the highest category, main points through the body paragraphs, and then refutation through that counter-argument like we talked about. Organization means it has paragraphs, right, which we've talked about a billion times. Works cited is interesting. Originally, when we talked about this assignment, we were going to have works cited. And I was going to go through that process. I'll talk about it briefly, but my expectation is for us in this assignment to not do a works cited page. I'll say that now. I will expect us to keep our source material. Just make sure that you keep a copy of either the links or the websites that you go on, and we'll talk about that. But the works cited, we're actually going to move to the next unit, and we're just going to have higher standards for the works citing that we do in the research process for Unit 4. And then finally, mechanics. Grammar, spelling, punctuation is just going to be like we always know. And so that's the rubric. That's where you get your score for the major assignment. Technically, it's not going to be 100 points. I misspoke. I said it was going to be 100 points. So technically, if you look at the original assignment sheet that we had, it was 50 points because the final essay is worth 50 points. So this is going to total up for 50 points. So this is going to be 10, 7, like 10, 7, 5, and 2. I want to say something along those lines. I'm not a math teacher, but you get my drift. So that's really it. Video number 2. Right? Gone over the assignment, gone over the overview of what we can be expected required to do. Castle learning, we just talked about, and then we covered the rubric. Video number 3, just to give you a sense where we're going next, we're going to talk about thesis construction. I'll do video number 3 and video number 4, organization, tomorrow. In video number 4, I'm going to talk about the graphic organizer and the outline. And so we'll look at some samples for both of those. And then video 5 is going to be the intro and the conclusion and constructing, taking that thesis statement and putting it in both of those. If you have any questions, again, you have my email. Good luck. Happy writing. That will end.